So now we're going to use the laws of sines and cosines to solve triangle problems. What usually happens with these is I give you 3 of the 6 pieces and I ask for the other 3. You have 3 tools: law of sines, law of cosines, and the fact that we know the angles of a triangle all add to 180. So here, I give you 2 angles, which means I can immediately get the third, because they must all add to 180. So the third angle must be 118 degrees. Now, I want to go after the 2 sides, okay? It does not matter which one you do first. What I'm curious about is, can I use law of sines or law of cosines, or can I use both? So, notice that I have all 3 angles, which is good. Okay, so that's not a restriction on what one I can use. But to be able to use law of cosines, I need 2 sides and I solve for the third. Currently, I only have 1 side, so I must be using law of sines. Let's use law of sines to solve for the side B. So I want that term, and I have the pair of A's. So this is the version of law of sines I'm going to use. So B must be little a times the sine of angle B over the sine of angle A. Okay. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode, and this gives me that B is 80.996. Now, to find angle C, I could do the same calculation, but I want to illustrate for you a law of cosines. So I'm going to be using this law of cosines to find the side C. So C will be the square root of 68 squared plus 80.996 squared minus twice 68 times 80.996 times the cosine of 118 degrees. This gives me 127.8894. And I have my missing 3 pieces of the triangle. Notice I never even needed to draw the triangle because I'm using standard naming conventions. I knew exactly what each piece was relative to the others. Now, let's do another problem. You notice that this time, instead of giving you 2 angles and a side, I gave you 2 sides and an angle. And this is where the warning from last time is going to come into effect. So I'm going to reiterate again. If at all possible, you should avoid using law of sines to find an angle, unless you can guarantee that angle is acute. However, sometimes you don't have a choice, as in this example. So I cannot find either the third side C, because using law of sines, I would need angle C. Using law of cosines, I would need angle C. Okay, so I must find an angle. Now I can't find angle C because I need side C, so I must be finding angle B. If I did it using law of cosines, I would need all 3 sides, so I have to use law of sines. And this is the version I'm going to use. Notice I've taken the liberty of flipping the fractions. You can do that, as long as I flip both ones. I did this because sine B is the thing I'm solving for, so it's easier if it's on top. So this must be that sine B is little b times sine A over little a. Okay, I worked this out, and so far I haven't had any problems. Now here's where the problem comes in. In order to get the angle B, I need to take a sine inverse. Now, looking at these 2 sides, okay, side B is slightly bigger than side A, which means angle B will be bigger than angle A. I don't know how much bigger, I just know it'll be bigger, which means I can't tell you that it will definitely be acute. Okay, so I'm going to end up with 2 possibilities. Okay, first is that it's an acute angle, meaning a quadrant 1 angle. So I just take sine inverse of this, and I get 77.969 degrees. But I could have also ended up with a quadrant 2 angle, or the obtuse angle, which according to our chart from last time is 180 minus this. Or 102.03 degrees. And I don't know which is the possibility. This is called the ambiguous case, and I'm just going to come up with 2 possibilities and list them both. If this is B, okay, I now have both A's and both B's. I need a C. Next, easiest to find is the angle, because it's 180 degrees minus A minus B. In this case, that's 33.03 degrees. Once I have the angle, I can use either law of sines or law of cosines to find the side length C. Personally, I like law of cosines because all I have to do is take a square root of both sides. Okay. And this gives me 61.306. Now I need to do the same thing over here. First I find the angle by doing 180 minus A minus B. In this case it will be 8.969 degrees. Then I'm going to use law of cosines to find the side length C. In this case it will be 17.535.